Can you please tell your name?
Shirina Ali.
Shirina, how old are you?
I'm 37.
So, tell us briefly about your background. Where were you born? Where were you brought up?
Very much a Tower Hamlets girl. I was born in Tower Hamlets and I've lived here my whole life. I got married in Tower Hamlets as well, so I haven't really moved out. I am the eldest of many siblings. So my parents are first generation Bengali, so they came here and we were all born here. And all of us have pretty much stayed in Tower Hamlets. Yeah, very close to our parents, we're very close to each other as well. Very, very typical Bengali. We see each other every day, or we used to, very much in each other's lives. We see our parents every week, that kind of thing.
So, I remember you told me before that you went to university. Were you the first person from your family to go to university?
Yes. So I was the first person to go university and finish university and get my degree. And I did that after I got married. So I had two children. I was married. I was keeping a home. I was working, but I still wanted to get a degree in a sense because I wanted to show my children that, you know, education was the way forward. But how can I keep saying that if I didn't have something myself? And I wanted that experience as well. So, ooh,
In terms of, let's say, during and before marriage life, was it an arranged marriage or did you choose?
yeah. So my grandfather um, accidentally met my husband. Grandfather fell ill on the corner of East India Dock Road, and my husband rescued him. And my grandfather really liked him, and then went to my parents, proposed the marriage. It happened within like 7 days, within like 2 weeks, I think. The nikah. So it was. I was very young. It just happened back in the days. That's what happened.
How
Yeah,
young were you?
17. Just turned 17.
So, how were you feeling then?
I don't remember. It happened so quickly. I wasn't asked, but I was asked if I wanted to get married to him. So I wasn't asked about the whole nothing. My aunts, my mum, they decided everything. I was just asked if I wanted to get married, and I didn't feel like I couldn't say no. I was the eldest. It was expected. Yeah, and he seemed like a really nice person at the time.
So, in this case, what was the transition like from single to being married and then the world of motherhood?
So it was hard because I was so young, and I think being married into a traditional family home where I come from a very pampered family. My mum never let me cook. We never did anything. I went into a household with lots of men and lots of cooking and lots of, like, you had to be covered, you had to be cooking. At the same time, I insisted that I finish my college A levels. It was crazy. Those 2 years, the first 2 years were crazy. In the middle, I also got pregnant, and so it was like I was fully pregnant when I was doing my A level exams, and then trying to figure out how we were going to live and moving forward and all of those things. So much happened in the first 2 years. I don't think I've ever had that pace of life afterwards than those first 2 years that we had.
So, what happened after? Obviously, the upheaval is out of the way for the first 2 years. So, what
So
happened after?
just before the birth of my daughter, we
Yeah.
moved. My husband quite reluctantly, but we moved, and we moved very close to my mum. So the first 2 years, it was almost like we were back at home, but we had a separate place to go to and sleep. And my parents played such a big role in bringing up my daughter. She was pampered; she never had to touch the floor, that kind of thing. Very much a grandparent's dream. So they had her every day or every other day. Yeah, the first after those first 2 years of being married and the crazy life that I had, these next 2 years were just very like chilled, very calm. So motherhood was something I instantly um, saw as an opportunity. and I thought it was going to be great, and I went into it. But my friends were all going to college and university, and they had a life, and I was the only one out of all my friends who had a baby, who needed to learn how to wean and change nappies and look at rashes and that kind of thing. And my friends all were getting, like, my best friend got a car when I got a baby. So those things I missed out on.
Like
Sorry.
when you know you're missing out on things because your friends were doing all those things, but you weren't.
I
How did it make you
missed
feel
out
then?
on so much. I only realize now as my daughters have grown up how much I missed out on. I missed out on like cinema trips. I missed out on like Friday night takeaways and gossip and just generally being in my friends' lives. And they were nice. They still came round and stuff, but I always had to be at home. And 20 years ago we didn't have such easy um like access to restaurants and things like that. It was a different life before, so very different. I did miss out on a lot. 18-year-olds were doing all kinds of stuff and I was stuck at home. But I don't regret it in any way. It was a different, I would still pick that life. I just, if it was different, I would have had other experiences.
Okay, so is it right for me to think that you were primarily focused at home as a housewife or any other roles?
Oh no, I was a housewife. I did, after she was born, I think about 10 months later, I started um like this befriending service. So I would go and sit with old ladies and take them to the park to walk and things like that. So it wasn't part of our marriage contract was that I wouldn't work, that my husband would be the breadwinner. So it was kind of built inside my head that I wouldn't have to work. I would always be taken care of. Yeah, it was a dumb plan. But at that time, I didn't know anything about money. I just assumed, we could live on the little money that he made, and everything was so romantic and so rosy. I know I'm doing this a lot, but it was like a Bollywood film. And I used to wear my saris and just like enjoy life, like as a mum. I didn't have a clue what was out there. And I think in a way I had no ambitions either. So, I mean, ambitions have a price tag on them. I didn't have any ambition, so I could get away with the little amount of money that we had.
So what changed?
The second daughter came along. So the second daughter, don't tell her, but we weren't planning on it. But yeah, the second daughter came along. We moved to a bigger home. My friends all started working, like they all started having these careers. So, and every time I met them, they used to talk about their colleagues. They used to talk about marriage. They used to talk about these big weddings. And it was dawning on me that I had these two daughters. How was I going to educate them? I wanted to go to university. How was I going to get my own children into university? What am I showing them? Like, what would they get out of looking at me as a role model? And I just, it suddenly dawned on me that I didn't have anything to offer my children, my two girls. So it was, and then I thought, okay, can't go get a degree. You can't just walk up to a university and say, knock, knock, open the door. And I didn't think it was possible for me at all because my A levels were not very good. But I went into a volunteering course with Poplar Harker, and the supervisor there saw an opportunity. Like, she was like, you could do so much more than this. And she signed me up to an access course for university. And this was a conversation I had with her like 8 months earlier, and I completely forgot about it. I said to her, I would like to go to university, but I know it's not a thing I can do. And I went to Bangladesh that summer. It was my first time ever going to Bangladesh. I was going to embrace the whole daughter-in-law, the wife, the traditional. I was going to embrace the whole thing. I came back at the end of August, and she'd signed me up to an access course to university. And she said, you're going on this day. I had I think 2 days to get my outfit and everything together. and go for an interview, and I got accepted and things like that. And I'm glad it happened so fast. I think if I had a week or two to think about it, I would have chickened out. But it was good fun. 3 years in university I did.
And what did you study?
Community sector management, and I
Hmm.
came out as one of the top 40 top 40. I got a first. So you
Okay.
can imagine those 3 years with a baby and a toddler, part-time work. Because by then, by halfway through, I got myself a part-time job. I was volunteering with Poplar Hawk. I was doing food co-ops and things. My family were like my sisters, my siblings were getting married, my friends were getting married. It was such a rush, and I'm glad because in those 3 years I learned what a life could actually be. So I could have this a career, I could have a different set of friends, I could have colleagues, I could. So it was like, okay, before the age of 30 I want this, and after the age of 30 everything will be a bonus. And it was things like, it was silly things like getting a degree, putting some money away for my children, having work experience, having a CV. I didn't have a CV, I wanted a CV. Everyone had CVs. um, I wanted a car. My friend had her car when she was 18. I didn't have a car by the time I was 28 or something. So I had nowhere to go. My entire life is on commercial road, but it became really important that I would do these things for myself.
So then, how did work change the way you see things?
Work made me meet people who were not part of my bubble. So I was meeting people who have done extraordinary things. And I work in the charity sector. So I met people who've moved countries. I met people who've moved social classes, who've moved from like the urban countryside to the city. Their way of looking at the world was very different than the people around that I've grown up with. Basically surviving. A lot of the people I met before working was just survive, just get through life somehow, cook your 3 meals, and you're happy and you're good. I met these people who had extraordinary lives, but even while they were working and doing all these amazing things, they found time to have hobbies and have expensive holidays and things like that, or even like experiences. I didn't know about charity events. I didn't know about helping people, tutoring, mentoring. Um, yeah, like Millers and all of this stuff that you could do and take part in. I could spend my entire weekend going from place to place doing stuff. It sounds very naive, but you have to understand the bubble I was in, of being protected by my parents, my sisters, my husband, my in-laws, my kids, my friends that I saw once every 6 months.
So, in what way has it changed mentally? I mean, in terms of, did it make you more assertive? Do you feel more learned? Do you feel confident about yourself?
I've done things in my working career many people haven't, and I've been in places and I've given talks and speeches and I've taken part in things. I appreciate every minute of it because I know how lucky I am to be in those situations. And sometimes I'm not going to lie, I am the only brown face in a room. I've been in rooms in Westminster, I've been in European Union rooms and things like that, and I look around and I go, I stick out like a sore thumb. And I make sure I say stuff just so, like, I've said something, just so my name appears in the minutes. Because I don't want to be, I appreciate the opportunity I have. And I want to be a little bit annoying about the whole thing.
So then,
But
I
yeah.
mean, so what do you do now then?
So my current job is, I've got 2 jobs. Very lucky. I'm part time. I'm a money and debt advisor, but at the same time, that role is split in half, and I do EUSS applications for European Union settlement schemes. So that's a part time job split into two, and then I have another job at Toynbee Hall where I'm a money mentor trainer, and I have done that job for about 8 years now. But yeah, So we teach a 12-week accredited course all over London.
So, I mean, if I had to say, what was life like, both professionally and personally, before the COVID crisis?
Starting in January, which is pretty much when I was ill throughout the Christmas holidays, so I was out of it. Come January, I'm going into work.
Why were you ill?
Um,
What's the reason for illness?
I will, there was a bug going round. So my entire family fell ill. But we also think mum went to Bangladesh, and we think because mum went to Bangladesh, we all were sick because we were without mum. I don't know, but honestly, for 10 days, we were looking forward to Christmas holidays. We had so many plans, and every one of my siblings were ill. I was ill. It was really unusual. We had like our quarantine in December, but yeah, it was really unusual. I don't fall ill. Alhamdulillah, I am quite healthy. My children are quite healthy. It really took us down. Went back to work and heard about this virus, but not really realizing that it's going to cross borders and stuff like that. And honestly, we've seen enough Hollywood films to know that the government will protect us all and kind of. So I was quite naive in how badly it was going to escalate. Come February, we were a bit more worried. And then I think the week before lockdown, our chief exec, Farida, was like, I think we need to think about what we need to do and things like that. And even at that time, I was saying, I've got International Women's Day at the beginning of March. This is a major event for me and I really want to do it. And there was a big chance that no one's going to come. But so we just scaled it down a bit and we still went ahead with International Women's Day. I think that was the last. But they really thought ahead about how we were going to do. Were we going to close down completely or were we still going to manage ourselves outside the office and things like that? And they really went with it. The day lockdown was announced, my daughter was still going to school. My son-in-law was still at work. My husband was still at work. I was. We've already made plans that we were working from home. So for me, I already knew, but I only grabbed stuff because I thought it was going to be 2 weeks. And very much all my work is face to face. I really didn't see how we could be away from the office. So I just grabbed a few things and I said, "Yep, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. See you guys then."
So, how did that affect you psychologically?
2 months before, we had an away day, and they did this whole thing about your qualities and your what are your qualities. So there's some bits that are your strengths and some bits are your weaknesses. So like you're an extrovert, you're introvert, your qualities in terms of working in a team, working away from this and all of that stuff. Working on my own, I got 1% Ripon. So you can imagine when I was sent to work on my own, I knew from the beginning I was going to struggle. And I am a very social creature. I remember your blog, and you said you're a very social creature. Very much me. I enjoy being out there. I enjoy my life out there. I have a very active work and social calendar. So the first week, it was like I was making lists and I was like trying to keep to a timetable. I was trying to get my daughter to do work, and we were like really motivated. We were like, we're going to do exercise, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And the first week was really good. Second week could have been better. By the third week, I had my first few dark moments and I was crying and I was like a weakling. And I was crying because I was crying. Like I couldn't believe I was that weak. And I hadn't seen my mom and I hadn't seen my nephew and my grandson. I have a grandson. It was like, what the hell is happening now? And then the death rate started. And then the panic started. And then like my husband was home all the time. And the other thing with the marriage side of things is in the 20 years, my husband and I have never been home at the same time. So in the 20 years of our marriage, typical Bengali family, we've never because he's always worked. He's a workaholic. He's always worked. So he was going through his own mental issues. I was going through mine by the third week. So my third week was his first week.
So how did it impact your relationship and your family?
The first 2 weeks was quite good with him. Like he took it as a holiday. Like, oh wow, Alhamdulillah, I have to stay at home. I'm all right. And but they get paid weekly, so the money side of things were on the back of his head. But I was saying, I'm still working. We're okay. We're gonna get through this. We're fine. I think by the third week, um, his money had run out. His family were calling and asking for like remittance payments and things like that. It was quite stressful. By the fourth, fifth week, financial worries started coming in. And even though like we had savings and things, or I have savings, he doesn't have any, it was becoming quite clear that, we would hit troubling times in the future. And especially with the government not giving us a timetable, I didn't know how to plan our future kind of thing. And I'm always a very much methodical in how we do things, and I couldn't do that, and that was stressing me even more.
So what's your husband's situation now then?
So he's still at home. He's got ants in his pants. The novelty of staying at home wore off a long time ago, and he does need to get back, and he's desperate to get back. I'm not letting him go, and this is solely I. He would he's respecting my concerns for his health, but I know at some point I will have to say, go.
What does he do?
He's a restaurant worker, but he works in Kent, in Rochester, which is 1.5 hours away.
Yeah.
And he will get in a car with three other strangers, well, his colleagues, but three different homes. They're all Bengali, all overweight, all got health issues. You know, for me, the risk is just too high. Like, my head can't deal with this.
It is one of those things, isn't it? What can you do? But in terms of, let's say, like in the community, have you noticed, like vulnerable people dying? I mean, what's your experience has been there
Yeah,
so
so
far?
we've had, he's lost two colleagues, ex-colleagues, to COVID-19. So I think that's what's kept him home. If he hadn't lost anyone, like many other people, he would have thought this whole thing was made up. I've lost an aunt. We've had people with COVID-19 in the family. So at the beginning, before lockdown, we were giving my daughter and I were helping a family who had COVID-19. So we know it's very real. We as a family know it's very real, and it makes me so angry when people put up these posts of questioning all of this, because it is a real thing and it's hurting people. And my job is to deal with those people. The conversations have happened again and again, and we've had to have those conversations with people about losing income, the financial stress they have, the mental stress they have of staying at home with the family, of children, of having to feed these children now all of a sudden. Like, I've got a teenager, eat a lot of food. And I'm my clients have more than one child, so I can understand how much stress they're under.
So, in terms of your job, then, what sort of cases do you usually deal with?
Mostly benefits, mostly money and debt. Um, so typical questions are: my income's gone down. What do I do? Or my business has closed down. I'm a self-employed person. What do I do? That kind of thing. And the government was great in getting answers out straight away. I spent 3 days reading and understanding, so I could be ready with answers for our clients and things like that. I made crib sheets. I made question and answers for all my colleagues. My colleagues were brilliant. They also helped out. Like, we were ready, like straight away from day one. We knew we were gonna have phone calls from everyone. In terms of our community, we know Tower Hamlets is drenched in poverty. There's no shying away from that, and we know what the effects of this is going to be on our community. Not only will there be financial implications, there will be massive social implications as well. And also the understanding, we have a massive language barrier in our community. No one not no one, half the people didn't understand what happened. Half the people didn't watch the news. And, the social distancing and things like that, a lot of people ignored because they just thought, well, it's not going to happen to me. We know 8 weeks on that the COVID-19 has affected the BME community more than anything else.
So, in terms of you giving advice, are you primarily giving advice on the phone or which other ways?
Oh yeah, everything's on the phone now. Where everything is on the phone, and very much we can give you advice, but it is a do-it-yourself situation.
Okay.
So we will tell you, we will give you the phone number, we will tell you what to say, but you have to call them up and stay, do it yourself. And our clients have been very like calm, and they've understood the situation, and they've been listening. We are very aware that there are lots of people who won't be calling us because of this. Like they don't have access to a phone and everything. But we have our another service from Limehouse Project that are doing food deliveries and things like that. And this lady called Mamina, she and her team have been amazing in terms of um, finding vulnerable people that we already used to cater to. And they've been taking around food, they've been having chats with them, knocking on their door, trying to figure out what's going on.
Right. So, in terms of period of Ramadan, how Ramadan fits in well with COVID?
So we know that there was like a food shortage. So food prices have gone up crazy. And even like, I think one of the major issues for a lot of families have been the food. Where do they get food from? It's really expensive. They run out of money. And, although Ramadan is all about fasting, at the end of the fast, you break your fast. And where do you get all of this? Where do you get food to feed your family and things like that? So much in terms of Ramadan has been hard. But more than anything, Ramadan is a community event. You fast because everyone around you fasts. And even my daughter was saying that it's really difficult. You're not in school, you're not with people who are fasting. It does feel like I'm the only one doing it. And it's so much harder because, well, I would be chatting with my friends, the day would go quicker. You're not constantly thinking of what to cook, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm lucky, I'm still working. I don't really feel it. I have a routine. And so it's still there. And my colleagues call me all the time. But the mosques are closed, and it's so hard for the men, especially because that's their community time. They learn, they look after each other. The women, that's their escape. The mosque, it plays such a big role in the community, and that's not there. The churches are closed. If the mosques are closed, the food, there are a lot of charity events happen at Ramadan. They're not happening at the moment. So it's difficult. It is very difficult.
Well, Shirina Ali, thank you for taking part.
Anything else you need from me?
That's all. I think I've heard everything I need to hear. Yeah.